All human achievement has come from an idea in someone's head. We sometimes need to be reminded about this because it's mind-blowing. And if you, like me, ever need to come up with a great idea, then tonight I'm going to share with you some techniques for coming up with amazing ideas. And I think your brain is phenomenal, and actually the sexiest organ in your body, even yours, sir. And that's because it lets us do something that no other brain in the animal kingdom can do, which is to think of something in the future and then come up with the solutions to make that thing happen. That's incredible. And during my life, I have learned to turn thought into reality. And I used to work as a 16th century gentleman in Disney World and also in television. And now I turn my ideas into reality in the novelty gift sector. And I'm really proud and also very surprised to tell you that I've sold over 1 million units worldwide of novelty gifts. Thanks. Thank you. Here are a couple of examples. Here is my Martin Luther King. On the back it says, "I have a clean." Simple idea, got it made in China, sold very many. This is the sound machine. Now, this came from an idea where I was watching a sitcom and Joey from Friends came on and I heard applause and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting or different to see if you could live your own sitcom? So I made this sound machine, so it's got 16 different sounds. Here's one. This one is the most popular. Can't think why. And my whole life is just really an experiment. And I think it's really a good way of thinking about your life. And thought brings reality. And if you think about your life differently, then you'll act differently. So if you think of your life as an experiment, as I do, then you never actually fail. Because scientists, when they experiment, have a hypothesis, they have a method, and then results, and a conclusion. Sometimes the results don't come out exactly as they want, but sometimes the results will take them on amazing journeys, and they can always do another experiment. So if you see your life as a series of experiments, you never fail, and it frees you up from the fear of failure. So let's talk about the first technique that I use and that you might like to use for coming up with a great idea. It's a cheat. Take something already existing and just change it slightly and you've got a new idea. People have been doing this for centuries. And I did it in Marks and Spencer's because I'm middle class. As I know all of you are as well. Cheers. Ocado members, fellow members. And I saw this simple concept. It's some candles, which when you put them on a cake, they make a phrase. Now, at the time, there were other companies doing this, but no other companies were doing any other phrases than just normal anodyne phrases, like happy birthday and congratulations. So I thought, okay, I can twist that. So I got a factory in Taiwan, I partnered with a company, and I made different ones. This is lost count. Then I did 21 again. There they are on the cake. And these are my best sellers. This is your old. And they sold 250,000 units worldwide and really took me by surprise. And this concept of just twisting something has been around for ages. Big business does it, and we can do it as well. So Sony takes the idea of a gramophone and says, how can we put a gramophone and twist it so that it goes onto your belt? Okay, let's make the Walkman, and that's what it is. It's the gramophone on your belt. And then when the media changes from cassette to MP3, they change it again. They update it again into an MP3 player. So it's happening all around us. I did it again in my life when I thought about the concept of glasses, and I released these, which are my hide your identity specs. And what you do is you pop them on, and when you have a photo, it looks like you're in the Special Forces. Thanks. So if you want to appear like an international man or woman of mystery, These are perfect, and I know that, sir, you like to put naked photos of yourselves up on the internet. Well, no worries about Photoshop. It costs 800 quid. Pop these on. Your boss will never know you're a pervert. £3.99. Brilliant, brilliant. So they've done really well. I like to use triggers in my life because I think that unless you're inspired in, you can't be inspiring out. So I like horses' names. Horses' names are really inspirational, actually. So I sometimes get a copy of the Racing Post, and this might work for you as well, and I look at horses' names, and they send my mind down different alleyways, and that's all triggers have to do, really, just to stop you having that blank thought. They just have to send your mind down little alleys. And so I was looking at these horses' names, and I saw World Series, and I was trying to think up a viral campaign at the time. And I was also looking at the Google homepage, and I thought, okay, World Series, Google, how can I combine that? So I ended up taking these two ideas, putting them together, and coming up with Google Nigeria. And as you can see there, it says, please enter your bank account number and search for inheritance. Now, I stuck it up on the net, very cheap, and it got 80,000 hits in the first 3 hours. It was incredible, really exciting. About a month later, it wasn't so exciting because I got a writ from Google. There you can see Sheridan Simove, my full name, and versus Google. I don't know which the bigger party is, but at least I took the idea, twisted it, and got it out there. I think that knowledge is no longer power. It used to be power. But now, because of the internet and this amazing time we're living in, we can find knowledge quite quickly with a couple of clicks. So therefore, knowledge is available to everyone, and it flattens its power. And now, the real power is finding connections between all those bits of knowledge, which actually is a definition of creativity. So innovation and creativity are the new power. And this is the next technique I use to come up with an idea, and I love this technique. Break a rule. All rules around us have been made by humans, and I always like to think that 100 years ago, there were different rules, and in 100 years' time, there'll be also very different rules. So it's constantly under flux. And so sometimes you can challenge a rule and get great results. And I began to think about the concept of cash and how it's illegal to print your own money, isn't it? Well, when I looked into it, actually, it's not illegal, because when you make a gift voucher, that's somebody's money. It's just an exchange for a piece of paper for products. So I started to think, can I make my own money? So what I did, I sketched it up, and I sketched up the idea for my banknote, which I called the ego. Because if you're going to have your own banknote, you might as well refer to your healthy self-esteem. And here it is in its final iteration. A little tip for you, if you have a photo taken from below, it makes you look more regal, and that's what world leaders do. They say to the photographer, take it slightly from below. So I had it taken from below, and I put lots of different images from my life on it. So my star sign is Taurus, passionate, stubborn, great in bed. My family's names are around the watermark, which is the Big Brother eye, because I used to work on Big Brother. And I thought, okay, that's turned out really well. The back looks really good as well. It's got my idol Disney on it. But can I give it real-world value? And this is the interesting and brilliant thing about humans and what you do every day. You create value that's greater than its worth. So this I got printed quite cheaply on really good quality paper on a proper printer. But then I put it on eBay to see what the market would actually value it at. And so it went on eBay, and here it is selling. And now it sells, one ego is approximately £1.52, which is a better exchange rate than the dollar and the euro. Thanks. The third technique. Look at what everyone else is doing in an industry that's not yours, and just take their idea and amalgamate it. And I saw something going on in the publishing industry which really intrigued me. My books, even though they've got rave reviews on Amazon, haven't sold as much as my novelties, and perhaps that tells you something about the market. Maybe it tells you something about my books, don't know. So I began to think I really, really wanted bestseller, because these took me 5 years and 3 years to write, respectively. And so I began to think about this idea of books, another industry, publishing, and my industry. And I saw two products in my industry, the gift industry, which blew me away, which I didn't think of. Look at this. This is a product called Nothing, and another one called the air guitar. They're just packaging. Now, Nothing is about £2.99, and air guitar is about £3.49. Now, I've got chutzpah, but even I wouldn't do that. But these ideas amalgamated into a cohesive thought for me. So I thought, how can I get a bestseller? So in 9 days, I published my next book. And here's my next book. You could probably guess what's coming. This is What Every Man Thinks About Apart from Sex, 200 blank pages. And the wonderful thing and the empowering thing about Amazon today is that you can just put it on. No one tells you no. You can find a printer. No one tells you no. You don't have to go through a publisher. Brilliant. Awesome. So I put this up on Amazon and I waited. Then I seeded it a little bit with my social network, not massive social network, and I had a budget to hire a PR company for 1 day. It got into the paper, which I was thrilled about, and it had an article in the Daily Star, laughing all the way to the blank. Great pun. But I didn't see any spike in sales, and that's an interesting thing that old media perhaps doesn't affect new media. So I thought, okay, no worries, but when this happened, it had a brilliant counter effect. A TV producer from a show called Lorraine, which is a morning show, saw it. At the time, it was being presented by Michael Ball, a singer. And the producer said to me, Shed, we think your book's funny, can you send it in tomorrow? And I said, no, I'll send it right now, because I know what TV's like. It changes from day to day. So I got it in a cab, it got there in half an hour, and they put it on TV. And have a look what happened when they put it on TV.
Have you seen this new book?
I have. I applaud it. It's 200 pages long, and it's the result of many years of thorough scientific research.
And as you can see...
Completely blank.
Completely, absolutely empty.
It's the hit. Apparently students are using it for notes and lectures.
But listen, it's not true. I mean, I would bet you a tenner, and I would
you're
bet you
man
a
in
tenner.
what way?
No, listen. Do you, I mean...
Thank you for backing me up
Do you
here,
think
Michael.
about sex all the time? Do you think about sex all the time? Most men don't. I know, it's hilarious.
It's 8:45 in the morning, you know.
Don't incriminate.
The ratio changes as the day goes on, but I think that's pretty accurate, yeah.
Cheers. I love the fact she's trying to intellectualize an absolute nonsense. And also the fact she has a really good view of men. It's wrong, but it's a good view. It's a nice view. It's a nice view. Now, even though that was national television, I still didn't see any blip of sales on Amazon. But the next day, things started to move. And this is an interesting lesson, I think, for us all, certainly for me. The old media article turned into a new media article. It became online. And this allowed bloggers and journalists to do important things, which is to copy and paste the story, to take the photo off, and to find my video, which was on YouTube. And that allowed it to go ballistic. And it started to go around the world. And I started getting emails from journalists around the world wanting to interview me. And they would write to me and say, "Dear Professor," because I put myself as Professor, even though I'm not a professor. Brilliant. Because it was linked to the net, it started to get amazing traction in a very short period of time, and it started to rocket up the Amazon charts, and it went to number 44 in the Amazon charts. And there it is below the secret, and my secret is don't put anything in your book. And it also outsold some of the Harry Potter books and some of the Da Vinci Code series. So it was a big success. And one day when this was happening, I got an email, and it really took me by surprise, and I thought it was a joke. I thought it was from my friends, and the email read, "Dear Shed, we really like your blank book. We're a publisher from Spain, and we want to translate it into Spanish." And I thought, no, that's funny. I thought that's funny. So I read down, and I looked at the footer, and it really was from a publisher in Spain, and so now I've published it in Spanish. And what I did as part of the contract was I wrote in, as part of the deal, that they had to fly me out for the launch because I like adventures as much as the cash. And so I found myself at the Madrid book fair promoting this book, and I was next to a woman who'd spent 8 years on a novel, and I was totally sold out. She had loads left. I felt terrible. And it got published around the world. Here is the Mongolian version, very odd, and the Dutch version. And I love the fact that the Dutch were deviant and didn't use my cover. I love that, brilliant. And in the end, it was 8 different territories and still counting, and it sold 80,000 copies worldwide. Thanks. It's not nothing. And it's infuriating stroke funny, given that I spent 8 years cumulatively on my real books, and this one I spent 9 days on and sold 80,000 copies. And of course, I'm now working on the Kindle version. So that's it, really. I'm just going to wrap up and say those are my 3 tips for creativity and ideas. Take something and twist it, break a rule, and also take an idea from another industry. And just to remind you that there are opportunities everywhere. And when I was doing a talk like this a while back, an opportunity came to me. Someone came up to me and said, Shed, do you know what the biggest selling gift is year on year? I said, no, I'd be fascinated to know. And he told me it's this. It's actually remote control helicopter. And as I researched it, I found out that the reason why remote control helicopters do so well is because actually young boys buy them, and also older boys, which in our society we call men, they buy them as well. So he said to me, Shed, why don't you do something remote control? And I said, yeah, awesome, okay. And he said, why don't you do a flying pig? I said, okay, not bad. He said, why don't you do a flying appendage? I said, well, that's a bit crass. So I went even crasser. And so look what I did. I made this. Here is, ladies and gentlemen, my flying... So, for the first time in human history, you can actually give a flying now. And I'd really like to show you it in action. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. So all that's left for me to say is thank you for your attention. You've been absolutely amazing. Remember how brilliant your brain is. I've been Shed.